This models for all of our team members. So if we had our organizations underneath, we are collaborating, we're pooling our resources, and we're modeling the behavior we want to see in our teams. So in this old structure where we're beg, borrow, and stealing, what are we teaching our team members? We're teaching our team members that our priorities are most important, and we're going to do everything within our power to achieve our goals. It doesn't matter what everyone else is doing. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm trying something new with my videos. So if you've been following me for a while, you'll notice that I usually do talking head videos. But this time I'm going to try something with a 2-camera setup. So I can actually use my handy dandy Sharpie to actually communicate some stuff. And today I want to talk about this concept that I had to use and had to adapt to in my leadership time at Netflix and at Zappos. It's the newer way of leading versus the older way of leading. So it's a concept that you can find in Patrick Lencioni's book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. The link is down in the description below, but bear with me. You're going to love this one, especially if you're a new leader or even if you're an established leader and trying to keep up with the kids these days, right? With millennials and Gen Z. All right, let's get into it. So the idea of the first team concept, let's get my handy dandy Sharpie going here. So the first team concept, right? So this concept is relatively new, but I've read about it, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, and the book is quite old. But let's actually go over the original school of thought. So when you think about your team as a leader, who's the team that you're responsible for? So if you're a leader, say this is you, and you have your reports, right? And then they have their reports, right? And you have like this traditional organizational structure where it could be you at the top and then you have your leadership team and then their reports. So in the old school way of thinking, the most important team for the leader is the downline, right? Like you're responsible for their learning and development. You're responsible for their productivity. You're responsible for their output. So you being the leader, the success of these folks directly relates to your success, right? And that's all and well, and that's fine, but that is definitely an older school way of thinking. Folks in my generation, Gen X, and then going through millennials, Gen Z, this is not enough because people need to see leadership be modeled, but they also need to see how their work fits across the entire organization. So if you think that your downline is your most important team, I would ask you to reconsider. And the concept of the first team is actually that your peer group to your left and right are actually the most important teams. And that is your first team. That is the team you collaborate with. And this is, I'll give you an illustration of this real world at Netflix. This is how it worked for me. So we had Rochelle King. This is Rochelle King, and she was the VP of creative production. She still is the VP of creative production at Netflix. And she had her reports. So there was Kathy for globalization. There was me for the creative studio. We had Elsa, and hopefully these folks will mind me using their names, but for program management. Then we had Mike for enhanced content, Denny for operations, and then we had Claudia, which was marketing operations. So there's 1, 2, 3, 6 of us that all reported into Rochelle. And traditional way of thinking, we would all be most concerned with our downline. So folks going down this way, right? But what the first team concept teaches us is your most important team members are the ones that are sitting across from you, your peer group. And so these are all the cross-functional teams. So the multidisciplinary teams. I didn't know anything about globalization. That's Kathy. I didn't know anything about program management. That was Elsa, right? Etc. And so why this works. What is the one thing that all of us had to share? We had to share resources, budget, and headcount, right? And this is just a practical, this is the practicality of why the first team works. So if we're all sharing resources, budget, and headcount, so resources can be like engineering teams, it could be contractors, whatever, like resources. Budget is how much money we're going to spend as a cost center. And then headcount, how many people is this organization going to grow by every year? So traditionally, in an old organization, each one will get just their specific number, right? And everyone will beg, borrow, and steal to say, oh, I want 5 headcount. No, you can get 4 headcount because I'm going to get 6 headcount, and everybody is negotiating, right? With this first team concept, all of us had to first share what our goals were for the year, right? And as creative production, what do we want to accomplish? Not creative studio, not globalization. What is a whole department, organization? What do we want to accomplish? And this way, if Denny has something that he wanted to do, and by maybe taking 2 more steps or adding 1 or 2 more dev cycles, it could actually benefit my team also. Now, if we are aligning across our team and we are spending most of our time together, so we know what each other's priorities are, we don't have to beg, borrow, and steal. Now we are splitting these resources amongst the group to achieve better goals, right? So that is the heart and soul and maybe the practical reason of why the first team concept is important. Right? And this not only helps you prioritize and share resources, but it builds a cohesive leadership team. You start to build a leadership team that isn't competing with each other for resources, but pooling resources, pooling headcount, pooling budget, doing all the things that work together. And so some side effects of this is your priorities. You can have less priorities. So your 1, 2, 3 priorities should be the creative production priorities instead of having 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then having to sort through all this, and then maybe Kathy's number 1, my number 2, and then Elsa's number 2. That's all we get to do, right? That's not effective, efficient, and it won't help us move farther. This first team model will help us move farther, right? And the other thing that this helps is when you're doing this, and what I've seen broken in I'll explain what I've seen broken in other organizations. So when you're doing this, what is this model? This model's for all of our team members. So if we had our organizations underneath that, Kathy, myself, Elsa, Mike, we are all working together, locked arms. We are collaborating. We're pooling our resources, and we're modeling the behavior we want to see in our teams, right? So in this old structure where we're beg, borrow, and stealing, what are we teaching our team members? We're teaching our team members that our priorities are most important, and we're going to do everything within our power to achieve our goals. It doesn't matter what everyone else is doing. The only silo that's important is our silo, right? Our silo is the only thing that's important. And if you're like me, you don't like silos, I'm about breaking down silos. I've always bucked the trend. I've always been the one who sits with engineering, sits with ops, sits with partners. I like to collaborate. So in this old structure, if I'm beg, borrowing, stealing from Kathy, then I tell a director that reports to me, you have to go work with Kathy's team and figure out how to collaborate and work well together. Yet I'm not doing it. What kind of a message am I sending to my team? How am I inspiring them? How am I setting the example and showing them, and also building a culture that allows them to be their best? Does me creating a silo make everyone around me better? No, it makes everyone else around me beg, borrow, and steal, right? So you want to model the behavior that you want to see the rest of your team have, right? So these are just some of the examples of why the first team concept is important. And then the last thing is, when you all can work together and you can all collaborate, it's much easier to provide inspiration and motivation, because you are able to connect everything that these teams do to the larger priority, to the larger goals of the organization. It makes everybody's work, even down to these folks, more meaningful, because they can connect the work that they do with their cross-functional partners to the larger goal. So if you are looking at a better way to make your leadership team cohesive, if you're finding that there's friction, and if you're finding that there's conflict and beg, borrow, and stealing that's happening within your leadership group, pick up the book, 5 Dysfunctions of Team. Do some research on this first team concept. You really need everyone to buy into this, because if you get someone on this team that does not buy into this concept, it's not going to work. Each person has to be genuinely interested and genuinely like their peers, and they have to spend more time with their peers than they do their direct team. Because if you want true alignment across your leadership group, they need to know what each other's doing. The right hand needs to know what the left hand is doing. So if you need help with this concept, hit me up. I can help you with it. Knowledge is free. Like, all these things are out there and you can definitely read. But if you need help with implementation, that's what I'm here for. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I really ascribe by this new first team mentality, first team approach, and especially with Gen X, millennials, Gen Z. So if you want to learn more, definitely hit me up. If you like this video, like, subscribe. And as always, if you like and subscribe, it'll help us find other people in the community, and they'll help us find this content. And hopefully we can help change some of these toxic environments and create environments where make everyone around them better. All right, all. Thanks again for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.